We're back, brothers and sisters. You're listening to the National Action Network Saturday Action Rally, coming to you live on WLIB 1190 AM in New York. We're streaming to you across the country on a number of platforms, including Facebook and nationalactionnetwork.net. We're live right here in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street. Call somebody. Tell them the action is on the air. Right now, brothers and sisters, get on your feet, put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. 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 Fist bump the person next to you, tell them you love them. Give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the Village of Harlem. And you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York. And you that are watching us live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and we will be going worldwide in a few minutes on Impact Television. We are happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. And certainly we enjoyed the inspirational message from Minister Travis Boyd. Some of you that have been in NAN for a while have watched Minister Boyd grow. I remember just in 2001, 19 years ago, when the attack happened, 9/11, Travis's mother was in the World Trade Center, and he waited weeks, came and stayed with us, waiting every time the phone rang that his mother would call, feeling that she had survived those building collapse. And finally, he came to terms with his mother was gone. And as we listened to him this morning, he's gone to school and seminary and gone on to be a minister. I'm sure his mother's smiling down on him. Give him a hand, Minister Travis Boyd. Give him a big hand. When he talks about people going through something now, he can talk about it as one that experienced it. People have more power in their message when they know what they're talking about. I remember when I was a boy preaching, first started preaching, and talk about God to bring you through trials and tribulations. That was cute. 4 or 5-year-old boy preacher talking about trials and tribulations. I didn't know nothing about no trials and tribulations other than maybe my homework when I got in elementary school. But as I got older and started preaching about it, I had more power because I've been through some trials and tribulations. If you have not been through anything, then you can't really talk about nothing. But if you've been through something, then you can talk about how to get through something. I often say when I'm preaching at someone's church, I often talk about I don't like to have friends that have never been through anything. I don't like hang out with folk that ain't never been through nothing. You know, people come around me, Minister Richardson, talk about, Reverend Al, I want to work with y'all. I want to get on staff for Nan. Here's my resume and here's my background, and nobody ever says anything bad about me. I have no blemishes on my record. I have an impeccable reputation. So I'd say to myself, well, you at the wrong place. Because I like to deal with folk that been knocked down, dragged through the mud, talked about, scandalized. Because if you hang around here, you gonna go through something. They're going to come after you, and if you ain't been through nothing, you may not know how to get through nothing. I always tell that story. I go fly all the time, even in the pandemic. I done been all over the country. And whether it's good weather, bad weather, the folks travel with me, always getting the forecast, where we going and what the forecast look like when we going to take off. Don't bother me, rain, storm, if the plane can go, I'm going. The only time that I won't get on the plane is if they tell me it's the pilot's first trip. And they be telling me, assuring me, Reverend, don't worry about it, he been to pilot school, he got a certificate, we done checked his credentials. Yeah, I got all that. But if this is the first time he went up, and we hit some air pockets and he ain't never been in charge of that, or we go through some clouds and turbulence and he ain't never been navigating that, I don't want to be up there with him the first time he figures that out. And what I'm saying is, you hang around friends that ain't never been through nothing, ain't never had a heartbreak, ain't never had some kind of challenge and some tribulation in life, you may not want to hang out with him. You hang out with me, you're going to go through something. But if you've been through the fire, if you've been through the floods, if you've been through the ups and the downs, you know how to get through because you've been through. Some of y'all go to these churches and folk be guessing what God can do. But if you've been through the journey some of us been through, you can know what God can do because he's done it for you. So he speaks from his own experience. Let me say by way of announcements that certainly, and I'm going to get into certainly we join the nation and the world with mourning the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on yesterday. And I'll get into that in a minute. I want to make several announcements. First of all, this evening at 5 o'clock, and tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock, on my television show, Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, I'm going to have on this evening former Attorney General Eric Holder. And certainly I want him to talk about the legacy of Justice Ginsburg. But I also want him to address what William Barr has said this week. You know, for the Attorney General, and no one is better to address this than the former Attorney General, for the Attorney General to, first of all, say there's no systemic racism. That's what he said. And then for him to prejudge the case in Kenosha, Wisconsin, by saying that Jacob Blake was committing a felony and had a weapon. Well, first of all, if you're having an investigation, how do you already say that this young man was committing a felony? We watched the tape, we didn't see him commit nothing but going around the car, trying to get in the car. And they later saying there was a knife in the car. Well, I grew up watching Superman and Clark Kent and all that, but I didn't know police in Kenosha had x-ray visions and could see through the car doors into the car on the floor mat. So I want to ask you about that. I got Eric Holder on, and again, we will be on 5 o'clock on MSNBC. Then tomorrow night, I have on Michael Cohen, President Trump's former lawyer fixer. And some of you have seen him on some shows, but it's going to be a different conversation with me because I'm one of the few people that has been in the room with him and Trump. When Trump wanted to talk to me about attacking him all the time about birtherism, when I first started MSNBC, it was Cohen that set up the meeting. So I know that Cohen knows all about Trump because I've seen him set up meetings with Trump and I when we were fighting. So we're going to have that on 5 o'clock tomorrow. I want y'all to make sure that you tune in. Secondly, my book is coming out, Rise Up, and I want everybody to get a copy. I'm going to do a book signing here Saturday after next, September 26th. So I want everybody at 12 noon right after the rally, come and I will sign it to you. Now, I cannot sign a book you don't have. Don't come up asking me to sign your napkin. I'm signing books. You get it at a reduced price here, but you get it to get a signing. I remember I had a book several years ago I wrote. A lady came up and told me to sign her arm. I'll sign your book on your arm. So I want everybody to be here for that. Now also don't forget that Thursday, September 24th, the Thursday before his legal night here at the House of Justice. You that are in Radio Land, it's a virtual meeting. Join us live by going to Zoom legal night. You can call the headquarters to get the breakdown of how to Zoom in. With legal night attorney Michael Hardy. A lot of people call me on my radio shows with problems. It is better to do it legal night. I am not a lawyer, don't even play one on television. But you can get a lot of your legal answers on legal night, something that has grown all over the country. Many of our chapters are duplicated with Attorney Hardy has institutionalized here at NAN legal night. And it's virtual because we're still in a pandemic, so we're doing it virtually. And Ashley took pains to teach Hardy what virtual was and how to Zoom in. I called him in the office and she was saying you could Zoom. And he was saying, how do you boom? She said, no, it's Zoom. So I said, it's going to take a little while, Ashley. You got to be patient. So we finally got them Zooming the last couple of months. Because he was booming when the pandemic first happened. But he done went from boom to Zoom, so you can connect in on the 24th. All right, so those are local announcements. Let me ask everybody also, as we watch this pandemic, let me tell you something. The politics that's being played around this, I want y'all to be aware of this. Don't get into this immediate reaction to a political vaccine. When you have health experts saying that you cannot take a vaccine like that, and the president saying, I'll have a vaccine next month, don't get into a political vaccine. I mean, I've never seen a situation where the CDC director says, wear face masks, and the president having rallies saying it don't matter. Where you will sacrifice the health and the possible lives of people to try and win your re-election. It's a sin and a shame. Let us welcome our Impact Television family journalists and the incoming of our Northeast Regional Director, Reverend Steffen Bartlett. Come on, Reverend Nazir, come on. Good to have from Irvington, New Jersey, our pastor, Nazir. Give him a hand. Both working our Northeast under our director, Reverend Bartlett. You know these Jersey guys know to show up when the television go on. That was a planned entrance. They were sitting out in the car waiting on the right time to walk in. In the middle of this political season, we looked last night and watched as the world was told of the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And certainly, I have told you all more than once, I was praying for her health because of her stands for not only gender equality, and certainly that, and we should not minimize that, but her stands around voting rights and civil rights. I remember sitting in the Supreme Court room when they argued the case around affirmative action and voting rights. I talked about it at MSNBC this morning. I had to go on early. I'm going to, of course, do my show this afternoon, but I was talking about it early. I had to cut them off because I told them, Minister Travis Boyd getting ready to speak, I got to get off and go hear Travis. But I was telling them I was in the courtroom when they had the argument on voting rights. And Martin III and I sat together, and John Lewis was in the room. And the respect that everybody had for this diminutive woman, whether they were on the right or the left, sometimes when you stand for something, your very presence make even your enemies respect you. It is better to be respected than to be popular. Some people do things to be popular, but never gain people's respect. I've watched people in various professions that will do whatever is trending at the time. But they don't stand for anything. And people know the difference between you trending and standing. It's very easy in this social media generation to be addicted to trending. Throw out a tweet and see how many folk gonna follow it. Post something on Instagram, see how many people follow it. Put something on Facebook, see how many people will like it. And it gets you addicted to instant approval. When those in public office, those in positions of legal authority, those in the pulpit become addicted to instant approval, we lose because of shallowness rather than substance and reality being checked by someone with integrity. Part of the legacy of Ginsburg is she did not do what was popular, she did what she felt was right. I remember Attorney Hardy was with me in one of those Supreme Court arguments, and it's hard to get a seat. In fact, you've got to have somebody to arrange for you to be an audience, not going to court for your ticket or whatever some of us may go to court for. You've got to be able to negotiate a way to get in the courtroom. But the respect they had for her was because she stood for something. And I would always tell my daughters, and I tell young people, that if you're going to be a sprint runner, do what is popular. If you're going to run 50-yard dash, do what is popular. But if you're going to be a marathon runner, if you're going to last a long time, then you got to stand for something in season and out of season, whether it's popular or unpopular. One of the reasons why the whole world has respected Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Lewis is because for decades they stood for the same thing. But if every time we see you, you done changed up what you stand for. Some folk even change up what they do. One minute they this, the next minute they that, and they never figure out what they are. You can't ever fulfill what you're going to be if you keep switching who you are. Attention freaks. Looking for somebody to pay them some attention. You go streaking down the street butt naked if somebody pay you some attention. I mean, think about it now. You want to be taken seriously, but don't seriously stand for nothing. The other thing I admired about Justice Ginsburg is she was one that did not use excuses. She was diagnosed with colon cancer and never missed a day on the bench. Then they diagnosed her with pancreatic cancer, kept working. Then her husband died, she was on the bench the next morning. Then she got a reoccurrence of colon cancer, of pancreatic cancer, and worked 11 years before she died. She worked through her pain. Some of y'all get a toothache because you was eating sugar food when you shouldn't have been. And you go lay down in the bed and can't go to work rather than brush your teeth and start eating right. You can always find an excuse to do nothing. But those that make real differences are the people that don't let anything get in their way. I've been blessed in my life to have been around people that achieved greatness. And none of them did not achieve greatness without trials and without having to work through some kind of handicap. Greatness doesn't come by magic. Greatness comes through working when others won't work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody could be great. If greatness was so easy, everybody would be great.
Yeah.
Greatness requires you to do the extra, to do the extraordinary, to press yourself when it's not easy. And that's why I give her a lot of credit and a lot of honor as she makes her transition. The politics of it was and is that as all of us tweeted our condolences and our memorializing Justice Ginsburg, I saw a statement come out by the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And he talked about nice stuff about Ginsburg and then ended it by saying, and we will vote for the nominee of President Trump. I mean, he didn't even have the decency of putting out a condolence statement and leave that as his statement. He had them on the condolence statement saying, by the way, we're going to ramrod and put a right winger in her seat. Woman had not been dead for hours. And he already said, let me tell y'all, we're going to put somebody in a seat that Donald Trump decides. Now, I want y'all to get this, because they're already early voting in Virginia and Minnesota. They start early voting already. That's why I told y'all this book I got coming out to be out next week. Everybody ought to get it. You on TV land. Go to nationalactionnetwork.net or go to alsharpton.com, alsharptonbooks.com, and get your book. I told y'all we're at the crossroads. The ante just went up. Because if they can get 6-3 conservative judges to 3 liberal on the court, everything that was achieved in the last half century is going to be turned over. When I wrote the book, finished it about a few weeks ago, I had no idea that it was going to be, Rise Up is really going to be needed now. And I teach in the book how to become activists without having to do nothing extraordinary. Because if they stack the Supreme Court 6-3, it will be a generation or more before it'll go the other way. Now, don't forget, when President Obama nominated a Supreme Court justice, they said that we should not confirm or hear justice in an election year. Is that not right? Well, they're in an election year now. 45 days before the election, already voting in Virginia and Minnesota. Yet they want to go ahead now and bring this, whoever he wants to nominate up, and vote either now or right during the lame duck session. We must organize a resistance movement now to stop them from doing this to the Supreme Court. They already have on the calendar Obamacare. It's on the Supreme Court calendar right now. They already have some abortion rights cases on the calendar, voting rights cases on the calendar. They stack this vote and they will turn it all upside down. That is why, as God would have it, we were able to have this big march just 3 weeks ago. And we had women rights folks and LGBTQ rights folks and, of course, black folks and victims of policing all in the march, showing that we can come together. We had the biggest march we had in years. And it was a pretext for how we're going to have to now put pressure together on these senators that are in these states that can't get re-elected if we all as an intersectional coalition say, if you make that vote before the election, and the sitting of whoever's president next January, we will vote you down now. We want a commitment right now that you will not vote for the process to go forward. Murkowski and Collins, all of them, Tillis in North Carolina, all of them are in rough battles. And if we stand up now, we can hold on and preserve what has been done. But if not, let me tell you something, Donald Trump is going to give you somebody on that court, and it will turn back everything that Dr. King and Fannie Lou Hamer, John Lewis, and others fought for. We cannot let that go down like that. We need to stand up now. Now is the time to see where real activists are. This is real serious stuff now. I was thinking about this morning when we had talked about going to Washington, August 28th, and Attorney Hardy tell a lot of people, start telling me you shouldn't do that. Yeah. And I just kept feeling compelled to go ahead anyhow. People, I'm talking about fellow folk in the civil rights movement. Here's the national civil rights groups telling me, no, you shouldn't do that. If you do it, I'm not going. Why shouldn't I do it? Well, there's violence in Portland and violence in Seattle. And folk could catch the COVID. Big Star, one of my best friends, called me, Star, all the way from Hollywood. Al, don't do it. But I kept listening to the voice inside. Sometimes you got to shut down the voices around you and listen to the voice inside you. Because God don't need no co-signer. If he tell you what to do, stand up and do it. If you stand up, he'll hold you up. Everybody in the Bible had to choose between those around them or what God told them. And I kept feeling that. And 3 weeks later, Friday was 3 weeks since the march. Look at what happened. COVID-19 did not tick up in Washington. We had 12,000 people. No COVID went up. All of them that told me that was going to happen. Because we put masks on everybody and temperature checks. There was no report. You know they was out there checking. They wanted to say, Shopton and them was finished. The COVID numbers went up. That didn't happen. There was no violence, not one fight, no arrest. Not one. When I got to the airport, it started raining like no tomorrow. But during the march and the rally, when the cloud in the sky, sun was so hot, to folk that don't sweat was sweating. And God held back the rain. I know y'all think I'm talking superstitious, but somewhere I read where Joshua was in the battle. Yes, and Joshua said, all I need is a little more time. And he looked up and said, if you do me one thing, Lord, let the sun stand still. I serve a God that'll make the sun stand still, that'll hold the clouds back if my people will stand up and do what I tell them to do. I say all of that to say that the reason we had to go to Washington is because we're going to have to go again and deal with this Supreme Court stuff. And we put together a coalition that now got to stay together of women, of LGBTQ, and everybody, because we've got to stop them filling that seat. What we did on the 28th was a dress rehearsal of what we've got to do all over this country as people go to vote. That's why we had to go to 28th, because we've got to save the dream. Are they going to vote against it in the new Supreme Court? That's what's at stake. Voting rights and all of that is at stake. The very things that we march for and focus the national attention. And we can't fight it by ourselves. But we can't fight it being cowardly. Because I'm telling you, they are plotting right now. Trump put out a list of possible Supreme Court justices early in the week. Now, he wants the agenda in the country. Y'all watch this now. He wants the agenda to go from talking about COVID to now talking about the Supreme Court. Because he can't explain how he messed up COVID. Yes, sir. Got him on tape telling the reporter that he purposely played it down. Yes, it was deadly. Yes, you could get it airborne. You don't even have to touch it. But I played it down. He want to get that out. Now he going to make the issue Supreme Court. Yes, sir. So you forget 200,000 people died because he neglected duty. And other hundreds of thousands, millions infected. So now he's going to make the cultural war. I want y'all to watch this. So that now the whole election is going to be around abortion rights and gay rights and policing. And he's going to have folk talking on both sides of that to justify who he puts in the seat that was occupied by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's where they're about to go now. And that's where they're going to try to turn the election. And he's going to roll out some blacks that's going to be arguing, well, it ain't about civil rights. It's about abortion rights and gay rights. And they're going to make this about cultural issues so they can put in who they want. And if you're not careful, Trump will use this to get reelected and to bring out of the Supreme Court, making everything from the Voting Rights Act to the Civil Rights Act to police reform, to Roe versus Wade, all of that yesterday's news. This is where the rebel got to meet the road. And people in our community need to be ready and strong. You ain't heard nothing yet. They're getting ready to work overtime. That's why God brought us back to the landmark of where Dr. King and others stood when I Have a Dream. I've been back to the landmark. So therefore, and so did you that went. So we are there now spiritually connected to those that were there in 63. And when they went in 63, they went against all odds. Don't forget now, Reverend Kennedy, when they went 63, most of them went riding the back of a bus because they was against the law for them to ride the front. But they went anyhow to Washington. Most of them couldn't stop and use a toilet because on the interstate highways, the bathrooms were for whites only. But they went anyhow. Most of them went with greasy fried chicken sandwiches in a paper bag because they couldn't stop at a restaurant. But they went anyhow. They went when the law of the land was against them, and they broke down the walls of apartheid in the U.S., and we connected to that spirit 57 years later. And I'm telling you that if you stand up, they will not prevail. God will use us connected to our elders. This has never been. This is why I talk about them latte liberals in my book, Rise Up. Because this has never been a political or cerebral movement alone. This has always been a moral movement connected spiritually with freedom fighters. You can't fight flesh and blood unless you have a spiritual power that gives you the power over them. If it is just about flesh and blood, then whoever has the most physical power is boss. But if you are not dealing on that, that's why a lot of y'all got the wrong frequency. It's like with the radio, some of y'all on AM and others on FM. Reason why they can't jam our frequency is we are not on their frequency. So you can't jam my channel because I'm not on your channel. They write the story now. I don't understand how Sharpton survived all this long because you've been jamming me in your frequency. I never was in your frequency. We done tried everything because I went over there. You can't get jammed unless you sign up to that. But if you come where you are on a spiritual mission and a moral mission, fighting for what is right, that's why I never, with all the political muscle we built, I never joined anybody's administration. Even Barack Obama, I never asked to be nothing. I didn't want to be appointed because I was anointed. When you're anointed, you don't need to be appointed. Your anointing will make room for you. In fact, those that are appointed can be disappointed. But you can't disappoint me because you didn't appoint me in the first place. But the God I serve that anointed me as a little boy said, if you make one step, I'll make two. If you stand up, I'll hold you up. I'll make your enemies leave you alone. That is where too many of us have lost our way. Because you're trying to be appointed by man, where you have rejected the anointing of God. I see too many preachers running around wanting to get Trump's blessing or Biden's blessing. I come to Biden and Trump already blessed. I don't need your blessing. I don't need your favor. There is a God, same God, that took Frederick Douglass from slavery and ran him up to Rochester, New York and made him an abolitionist. Same God that put some fuel in Harriet Tubman where she could run 500 slaves in an underground railroad from slavery to freedom. The same God that could back up W.B. Du Bois meeting in Niagara Falls, forming the NAACP, and 103 years later is still here. Same God that took Randolph to form some sleeping car porters and start a black union movement. Same God that took a man out of Kingston, Jamaica, named Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and looked up at the sun and said, "Up, you mighty race. You can if you will." Same God that took a boy out of Atlanta, Georgia, that went to segregated schools but shook this nation with a dream he had and brought us from the back of the bus to the front of City Hall. Same God. Same God. Every Saturday morning come by 145th Street and Lenox Avenue and say, if my people called by my name would humble themselves and pray and turn from the wicked way, then, right then, they'll hear from heaven. I will heal the land. Same God. Problem you got is you too busy figuring out your career rather than figuring out your calling. There's a difference between your career and your calling. Your career is something you plan so you can make a living and you can live comfortable. Your career is something that you impress folk with. Your career is something that you aspire to and that you have your ambition connected with. But your calling may not be with your career. Your calling is why God brought you in the first place. Every child born is a decision God made. That's why I keep telling folk, don't be talking about whether or not you was supposed to be here. If you hear God willed it. A lot of folk wanted to have children, couldn't have children. You got billionaires can't have children. And you got dirt poor people having more babies than they can feed. God decided to bring life. Every life is a miracle that God decided. You are no accident if you figure out why you're here and what God brought you here for. And don't go no fortune teller to find out. Listen to inside of you. God will speak to you and plot your course if you will listen to what God's telling you. You find yourself in situations that you know you didn't plan. You find yourself moving in certain ways that you know you couldn't have schemed. There's God using you. If you will follow that, you'll succeed. But you're too busy talking against what you ought to be embracing and going forward. And that's what has happened to many of our ministers, standing around Trump, trying to make evil good, trying to justify what is unjustifiable. Oh, give me the Bible, Dominique. Go to Ezekiel 22, 22nd chapter of Ezekiel. Go down to the 26th verse. Ezekiel now was a prophet that was dealing in Israel when they had gone against God. We the first people now that got lost. A lot of us, you know, right after the Civil Rights Movement, they inundated us with negativism, put drugs in the community. You went from Dr. King to Superfly. Hello. Dr. King's Dream in the 60s to the movie Superfly in the 70s. And you started celebrating dope and celebrating prostitution and celebrating immoral, decadent behavior. You got lost. Brought you across the Red Sea. Brought you from the back of the bus to the front. Opened up the Red Sea for you. You got in the wilderness and started super flying. Putting on rings and trinkets just like the Israelites had done in Egypt land. You got lost. You hadn't even got to the promised land yet. You just got out of Egypt and started messing up each other's families and started tearing down each other's community. And you did not want to be an educator. You wanted to be a thug and a gangster. You didn't make movies about George Washington Carver. You didn't make movies about Mary McLeod Bethune. You made it about Superfly. You lost your mind. And you lost your way. your children. They put crack and guns in the community and had you turning on each other. And the children of Malcolm and the grandchildren of Garvey went from Up You Mighty Race to making music calling themselves hoes and niggas and bitches. You lost your mind and you lost your way. How do you go from black and proud to calling yourself a nigga and get mad at somebody if they tell you don't call yourself that? Because you lost your mind and you lost your way. But God always has an Ezekiel that'll stand up and call it like it is. Read.
Her priests have violated my law and have profaned mine holy things.
Her priests, now the preachers now, this is Ezekiel. Talking about Israel's priest has violated. These are holy rollers. These are the ones that tell you they saved and sanctified. Those are the ones that can hum and holler on the beat. Ah, Lord. Oh, but you violated. You can hoop, but you can't follow. You can rhythm, but you can't get in line with God. Read.
They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they shewed difference between the unclean and the clean.
They've not shewed between the clean and the unclean. That's why you can stand up around Trump and lay hands on him and talk about you praying with the president. But you couldn't pray with George Floyd's family. You couldn't pray with Breonna Taylor's family. You couldn't pray with the family of Rashad Brooks. But you can anoint Trump. But the folk God called you for, you could not discern between the clean and the unclean. Read.
And have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned among them. Her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey.
Like wolves ravening the prey. That's the folk that exploit. Those are the folks that jack up the prices. Those are the folks who won't give a home loan to folk based on the color of their skin. Just praying to people. Read.
To shed blood and to destroy souls, to get dishonest gain. And her prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them.
Oh, vanity. That's Facebook. That's how many followers I got. Vanity, that's Instagram. Where you'll show your behind if that'll get you more followers. Vanity, where you talk about the comfort of the people in charge of the church rather than the people getting fulfilled from the church. Vanity, where it's got more to do with you than it got to do with the Christ you're supposed to represent. Vanity.
Saying, thus saith the Lord God, when the Lord hath not spoken.
Saying, thus saith the Lord God. Getting up saying, God told you this, God ain't told you nothing. I stand as a faith leader with no faith. Wrapping God around your wicked theology. Saying that God spoke when God didn't speak to you. One of them right-wing Trump preachers said to me, Reverend Al, I need to talk to you. God gave me a message for you. I said, God know how to talk to me. God don't go to you to come to me. I talk to God 3 or 4 times a day. I know you ain't got no message from God because I just got through talking to him.
The people of the land have used oppression and exercised robbery and have vexed the poor and needy.
Oh, the people of the land have used oppression and robbery. That's in Ezekiel, in the Bible. So when Bartlett and I start preaching about oppression, that's in the Bible. But they tell y'all don't talk about that. That ain't holy. But that's in the Holy Bible. Ezekiel talking about oppression in the Bible. Y'all say, no, y'all talking politics. No, I'm talking Ezekiel. Read.
Yea, they have oppressed the stranger wrongfully.
There you go again. Oppress the stranger wrongfully. Would that be like taking the stranger's children and putting them in cages? Would that be like separating families because they came across the border looking for a better life? Oppressing strangers. Read.
And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap.
All right, stop right there. I looked for a man among them that would stand on the hedge and stand in the gap. That's my message to y'all this morning. Last night, as Ginsburg went on to her just reward, and McConnell announced we're getting ready to stack the Supreme Court, I went to Ezekiel and I read that one verse that turned it all around for me. God said, don't worry about that. I'm looking for who will stand in the gap. We're getting ready to have a showdown in the United States. And I need somebody that'll believe in me enough to stand in the gap. They're going to talk about you. They're going to scandalize you. They're going to throw the weight of government and media against you. But if you stand in the gap and hold still and let me fight your battle, I'll make a way out of no way. All I want to know is who's willing to stand in the gap. You want comfort. You want to relax. You want to be a preacher with the biggest car or jet plane, but you won't stand in the gap. But the time has come where it's gap standing time. I don't care what y'all are plotting in the White House. I don't care what meeting Trump and McConnell's having. Let them know I'm willing to stand in the gap. We're going to stand anyhow. We fought too hard. We spent too many nights in jail. We shed too much blood. We buried too much of our loved ones. I'm going to stand in the gap. We must make a decision on where we're going to stand. Somewhere I read, choose ye this day whom ye shall serve. Can't serve. You can't be political and prophetic. You can't be popular and great. You got to choose where you're going to stand and what you're going to stand for. And now everything that you gave in rhetoric is on the line. Talk about, well, you know, back in the civil rights days. No, you are in them now. Ain't no back in the day. You in the day right now. You right now are in the day they can choke a man to death. And he plead 11 times, I can't breathe. And the cop won't loosen his grip. And they won't even bring the cop to court right now. That happened to Eric Garner. Right now, you see with your own eyes a policeman put a knee on a man's neck and hold it there 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Not back in the day, not in the 60s in Mississippi. Right now. Right now you see policemen surround a woman's house, her and her boyfriend sleep, and they run through the door and shoot 20 times and kill her. Right now. Right now. Man in a Wendy's restaurant store on the driving line fell asleep, had so much to drink. And the police come, harass him, and he runs away, begging for his life, and they shoot him in the back. Right now. You talk about back in the day. Right now, today, who will stand in the gap? I might not make the big convocation. I may never get called the big titles, archbishop and all of that. But I'm going to be there in the gap. I'll be there with George Floyd's family. I'll be there with Breonna Taylor's family. I'll be there in the gap. Don't look for me in the high exalted places. Don't look for me in the pulpits plated with gold. Look for me in the gap. And I can tell you now, there ain't a whole lot of folk in the gap. It ain't like you want to be seen. Well, you'll be seen if you get in the gap, because you're going to have a whole lot of room by yourself. But everybody that made the Bible, everybody whose scriptures quoted thousands of years later, were people that stood in the gap. Folk that was big and popular in their time, we don't know nothing about them. But Travis, those that stood in the gap is the ones we remember. You know, we all know that story about David and Goliath. I heard Travis call on David testify. But do you ever think about when the Philistines was fighting the Israelites? And Saul was the leader. And the Goliath come down from the other hill, because in those days, they would fight different hills. One army would get on one hill, another army the other, and they'd run down to the middle and fight. And all of the Israel army was afraid to fight. Now, you got a lot of intelligent folk in here today. Jump up and tell me the name of anybody in the army. I mean, just call one name. You got some of y'all got doctorate degrees. Who? Give me the name of somebody in the army. Well, look, you got law degrees. You went to private schools and nice college. Tell me the name of somebody in the army. Nobody knows there. Yeah. What? Because when Saul said, well, wait a minute, we can't fight. And Goliath said, come on, send me your best man. None of them would stand in the gap. But a little boy who had never been to military school, who had never had training, who never been to boot camp, little boy said, I'll stand in the gap. And even Saul said, wait a minute, you don't need to get in the gap. You nothing but a child. David started laughing. You gonna send this kid, Goliath started laughing. You gonna send this kid to me, I'll feed him to the birds. But the gap stander, the little boy, they gonna laugh at you, they gonna mock you. He said, well, wait a minute, I did not go to military school. I didn't have all the training. But you know, one day when a bear and a lion came to take one of my father's sheep, I didn't have no lion training neither. I never got a degree in bear fighting. But something got in me, and I grabbed the lion and the bear. And the same God that helped me defeat the lion and the bear, that same God will help me fight Goliath. I don't know what the fight looks like over the Supreme Court, but I got my slingshot this morning. I'm going to stand in the gap. I know they're going to talk about me. I know they're going to write editorials against us, but I'm going to stand in the gap. Well, Reverend, they mess with you all the time. They write bad stuff about you on the internet, but I won't complain. Yeah, I've been through ups and downs. I've been scandalized before, but I won't complain. Every once in a while, somebody on my staff will show me an article they wrote against me, and they say it's so unfair. I say, yeah, it's unfair, but God's been good to me. Better than you could ever be. I won't complain.
I've had some good days.
Yes, I have.
I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days. Yeah. sleepless night. But as I look around, yeah, I begin to say things over. What about the things they always my daddy, and I will complain. Come on. Sometimes the clouds hang low. Come on, yeah, and I can hardly see the road. I ask the question, Lord, why so much pain? So much pain. But he knows what's best for me. See, sometimes these weary eyes, they just can't see. So I'll just say, thank you, Lord. Yeah! And I will complain. Wait a minute. Sometimes folk will do you wrong. Some folk that you did right will do you wrong. Sometimes those closest to you hurt you the most. Sometimes things that should have went one way went another way. But you can hold through the pain. Yes, sir. As the song said, Lord, why so much pain? But you got to, even while you're hurting, say, God knows what's best for me. Yeah. And when you see those that did you wrong, you can look at them and say, God has been good to me. He's been so good to me. He's been better than me. He's been so well to never be. God's been good. God's been good to me. He tried my tears away. And he turned my midnight dreams away. So instead of complaining, I learned how to lift my head, look up towards heaven, and say, thank you, Lord. I've been lied on, but thank you, Lord. I've been talked about, but thank you, Lord. I've been misunderstood, but thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I won't complain. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean. Singing like you mean. We want justice. Got to have justice. We want justice. One more time, y'all. Everybody sing. Everybody singing. I'm opening the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today that never joined the National Action Network. You see some of our activities on TV, on the news, some hear us on the radio, but never became a part of the movement. Well, it's your day to stand in the gap and to join us as we fight this fight now to maintain the place that we've already won and to go even further toward full liberation and empowerment. If you're here and never joined, just come down to me and let us sign you in to this justice family right now. Come on. Everybody singing.